Hi there, I'm Reverend Kate from the Center for Spiritual Living in Carlsbad, California. And today I'm going to talk about moving from theories about new thought and science of mind into actually putting what we've learned into practice. So the title of this talk is How to Use It. And that's also the title of the fourth section in the Introduction to Science of Mind that you'll find in the textbook. So if you have a textbook, Science of Mind, feel free to open it, follow along, because I'm going to try to go through it and just try to make it simple. Now, I was thinking about how to do that, and I was thinking, well, I like to cook, but I rely on a cookbook, The Joy of Cooking, or some other cookbook to kind of explain the process, because once I understand the process, then I'm able to customize it. If I have certain ingredients and I understand how to use them, then I can put them together in fabulous ways. So that's a little bit like this section, how to use it. Think of it as kind of a cookbook or a recipe of how to do it. And as you become more and more comfortable with it, you're going to be able to start using these principles for yourself. So really, the title of my talk is How to Use It, but perhaps we should have called it How to Use It Better. Because the fact is that these principles, the idea that we live in a spiritual universe, that Spirit is actually all there is, that everything we experience, everything that we are, ourselves included, everything in the material world, as well as in the invisible world, is spirit. These things that we can touch and experience are made of the substance of spirit. So since everything is spirit, since you and I are what we call individualized expressions of spirit, then a lot of things that are true about universal spirit are also true in a smaller way for us. And that's really the basic principle of our teaching. So we don't want to teach people to run around and say, oh, nothing is wrong, there are no sick people, everybody has everything they need, when it's not really true. We want to base our understanding on reality, and we know that we live in a complicated world. Still, the truth is that the infinite life flows through us. And since we're actually one with it, we can cause it to do definite things for it. Basically, through our minds, we set a direction, a tendency, and life response. Now, the crazy thing about it, the catch about it is, if you believe it won't work, it doesn't work. We're talking about the law of cause and effect. So it's very simple. If you believe it's going to work, it's going to work. But believing it's not going to work is actually a belief itself. Just like you might say that a person has a lot of faith because they believe good things are going to happen, and then casually say, oh, but this other person, they don't have faith. Actually, a person who is afraid or believes that bad things are going to happen is still having faith. So we're at choice. And that's the fundamental thing to keep in mind as we go through this process. We're at choice. And what you might think of as causation, this law of cause and effect, is a very subtle, fluid force, you might say. That's what Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching, said about it. He said, think of this force, this causation, as forever taking form and deserting form. And we shouldn't get confused or hung up in forms, but we should know actually that any form which is not in concordance with the original harmony of life is subject to change. See, the universe is not divided against itself. And all we're doing through this spiritual practice is learning to control our thoughts and bring our thoughts into line with reality. So Ernest Holmes says we should look at a discordant fact and deny its reality. And, when you just read that, it's like, what does he mean? So I'm going to say, imagine that you were learning to sing a song and you sang the wrong word or hit the wrong note. You just go back and you do it in a more harmonious way. You get to have a do-over. And that's kind of an example of how when something seems wrong, you can deny that. You don't have to stick with that wrong note. You can go back, kind of do a do-over, try again, because what we're doing is working with our thoughts. And of course, that leads to our actions. Always working to create something more and more in accord with the life and the experience of life that we would like to actually have and actually share out into the world. So it takes practice. We talk about spiritual practice, and the key word is practice. So the way really that we learn to use it better is by practicing doing it consciously. Now, practice calls for understanding, but it also calls for willingness, a willingness to try to actually take control of your thoughts. Now, you and I are what you might think of as entities, right? We're spiritual beings. We're real. But conditions are not entities. So whether someone is experiencing illness or great health, that would be what you'd call a condition. One, good health is what we'd call a wanted condition, and then ill health would be an unwanted condition. These are the things that are subject to change. And when we change our consciousness, the condition changes. And this is what Jesus taught, that as we change our thinking, our lives change. And the wonderful thing is that while, Jesus is a role model of someone who had tremendous faith, we can actually strengthen our faith. In order to do this, it really takes mental steps that we go through. So, if you take the example of poverty, which is an apparent or seemingly limited condition. In order to change that condition, the steps are to first realize that the law of life is actually a law of liberty and freedom, and then to think clearly and state clearly that this law of liberty is flowing through us and all our affairs. And then after doing that, if you still have some doubt about it, just stop and declare that our thoughts of limitation are not actually a person, place, or thing. And that our thoughts of limitation have no power, they have no personality, and they have no true presence, no real law to support the experience. When we do this, when we work with these concepts and are able to really begin to believe not in poverty or limitation, but to begin to believe in the possibility of freedom, of the fact that we live in an abundant universe, what happens is there is actually a shift that takes place. And a lot of it is going to be a shift in perception. And this is what we call cultivating an attitude of gratitude. But also there's a actual change in causation, and a new set of circumstances is put into motion. We live in this world, and Ernest Holmes says it's good that we live in this world. He said, the world is all right when we view it correctly. When we view it correctly, what does that mean, really? He gives the example of, the Christian world has never actually followed the ethics of Jesus, even though a lot of Christians say they're Christian. What we have to do is practice the rules, follow the example of Jesus himself. He said that the kingdom of heaven is within. He said that the Father and I are one. And he said that your faith shall heal you. Why not try it to see if it's true? Now, all over the world, in all the face of the world, you just see people praying in one way or another. It's a spontaneous act, I believe, of people, even if they might even say that they're agnostic or atheistic, they'll still be thinking positive thoughts or doing planning ahead. Now, in the science of mind, we like to use a specific form of prayer. We call it spiritual mind treatment. And I'm just going to read for a moment what Ernest Holmes said about that. So he said, thinking about a person who wanted to experience more good in their lives, they might say something like this. And this is just to kind of give you an example of what a spiritual mind treatment or a prayer treatment might be like. Holmes says this person, you or I or someone we know who would like to live more abundantly, should say this, or something like it. I am a center in the divine mind. I am a point of God-conscious life, truth, and action. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. Everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by the truth. There is power in this word that I speak because it is of the truth, and it is the truth. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and my affairs. All belief in wrong action is dispelled and made negative. Right action alone has power. And right action is power, and power is God, the living Spirit Almighty. This Spirit animates everything that I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily, and these ideas are divine ideas. They direct me and sustain me without effort. I am continuously directed. I am compelled to do the right thing at the right time, to say the right word at the right time, to follow the right course at all times. All suggestion of age, poverty, limitation, or unhappiness is uprooted from my mind and cannot gain entrance to my thought. I am happy, well, and filled with perfect life. I live in the spirit of truth, and I am conscious that the spirit of truth lives in me. My word is the law unto its own manifestation and will bring to me or cause me to be brought to its fulfillment. There is no unbelief, no doubt, no uncertainty. I know, and I know that I know. Let every thought of doubt vanish from my mind, that I may know the truth, and the truth may make me free. So that's an example that he gave to us as how we can work with our consciousness, creating spiritual mind treatment that creates this tendency of positive good in our lives. Now, I'm saying tendency because actually it does create a tendency, but we can also use it for specific prayers. We can focus our prayer on perhaps health issues or anything else that we would like to see a change in our thinking and a change in our circumstances, because they go together. Our thoughts and our thinking go together hand in hand. Now, Ernest Holmes teaches us that what we're doing really is getting to the truth. We're uncovering the truth. He says, in fact, that there is no process of healing any condition. There's only a process in the healing of conditions. Now, this sentence, the idea that there's no process of healing, but there could be a process in healing, has been kind of well, you could think of it as a mystical koan in a way, a little bit of a puzzle. And I want to go over it because if the idea is that what we're doing in treatment and prayer, any type of prayer really, let's call it any type of effective prayer, what we're doing is we're reaching to the truth. So the truth is goodness. We in our prayer don't create goodness, right? We in our prayer are uncovering goodness. So when I use the word healing, referring to the healing of a physical condition, there's no actual healing in God itself that needs to be done. God itself is already perfect. What we're doing is we're aligning our mentality with spiritual truth. Now, that's why we say no process of healing, and that we should have the faith of God. Now, the thing about the process in healing, that he's referring more to how do the circumstances actually change. So obviously, you know that I could have certain prayers or treatments that are going to unfold or show up very quickly. You know, if I'm feeling sad and I do a prayer to feel happy, I can feel happy so quickly. If I have a desire to lose weight, that's going to take more than an instant to actually see it come into manifestation. So in a case like that, you would say, yeah, there's a process in healing, or what there is there's a process, a time frame, or steps that might be taken in order for something to take place. You know, the shorthand for that is the saying treat and move your feet. So there's a lot of things that you actually might discover when you're doing your prayer, that it will lead you to take certain actions. So if I'm doing a treatment or a prayer to lose weight, I may discover that I am now moved to eat more vegetables and fewer donuts. You know, it's just something simple like that. And so that would be for someone the process in healing. Or if they were praying or doing a treatment for some new insights about their business success or their job, they may discover that it's not like waving a magic wand, but that things will fall into place, that they will be compelled or impelled to take certain steps, getting things in motion. So the truth is, though, while there might be a process of unfoldment of our spiritual mind treatment, it's really something you should try. These definite affirmative prayers that we call spiritual mind treatments actually are something real, a real spiritual thing. And our belief works with it, works with spirit. Holmes said that our treatment was actually a spiritual entity, something that is real and has a real effect. Now, we give our treatment direction with our thought, and it appears, and I believe, and Holmes teaches, that the level of belief that we have when we're doing our prayer really seems to cause the power of the creative law of the universe to flow through our treatment in a more powerful way. See, our thought creates the mold of what we would like to experience. And then spirit fills the mold. And it's a little hard to explain, but it's almost as if our faith or our level of belief calls forth the yes of spirit. So we teach spirit says yes. And in reality, we're always having thoughts. We're always doing things based on our thoughts. And spirit is always responding, saying yes. That's just how life unfolds. The thing is that what you can do is you can use conscious thinking, conscious spiritual mind treatment, and call forth the yes of spirit and experience a more and more satisfying life. We have a lot of thoughts. In fact, you could say that disbelief or unwanted thoughts act a little bit like a negative treatment. So if I'm treating or praying to get a new job, but at the very same time, I don't believe it's possible, it's like I'm praying negatively in opposition. So if spirit always says yes, saying yes to both the positive and the negative thought, it's just static, and I just sit there with no new job, no change. Treatment is actually a powerful spiritual practice, and by using it consciously, we can let go of these interfering thoughts. Let's call it the interfering thoughts, the congestion or confused thoughts that also are, well, they're always flowing through my mind, and take a moment to concentrate consciously on the thought that is truly important to us. Now, since treatment is a powerful spiritual practice, and since the treatment actually takes place within the person doing the treatment, so even if I treat for you, the treatment takes place within me, it's obvious that treatment must be life affirming, and treatment must be in harmony with our good, all good, in order to be truly effective and positive. And, just a small example is if, for instance, you see that your neighbor has a new car and you wish it were yours, you don't have to treat for your neighbor's car. You simply have a treatment to have a car like that or better. And that might be a silly example, but I'm trying to just give you the idea that it's simply a matter of following the golden rule and knowing that any prayer should be life affirming. So back to how to use a treatment. Holmes says it's important to believe in what you are doing a treatment for, and that you can build that right into your treatment by saying, after we state what it is we desire, that we trust the treatment to produce the right results. And then we wait. We turn it over to spirit and we wait. Ernest Holmes said, and to wait in a state of knowing. And he was not the first teacher of this spiritual philosophy that we call New Thought. He studied with other people. He read other writers. He talked to other people, just like we do today. And Ernest Holmes was greatly inspired by the writings of an Englishman, Thomas Troward. And he said, after we do our treatment, we must wait in a state of cheerful expectancy. In fact, cheerful expectancy is the name for a state of mind that we need to cultivate and experience as much of the time as possible. You take a consciousness or mindset of cheerful expectancy, and you add that to what's called an attitude of gratitude, and you have a true recipe for success. I wait for my good in cheerful expectancy, and I am grateful for all that is already mine, all that is mine both materially, in experience, and in spirit. And I just want to say, treatment is not just about ourselves. We are all connected in spirit, in universal spirit. And so we can easily treat for each other, not to control them or say, do this or that, but simply to know that other people too are surrounded by good, are prospering. And when we do a treatment for ourselves, we are creating a spiritual light, or strengthening our spiritual light, you could say. And this light that each person has and strengthens does have a snowball effect of creating more and more, let's call it loving kindness and harmony in our world. So it's great. But sometimes you might find, because I do, and I've been doing this a long time, you might find you still have a little doubt. Everything's fine in theory, but to go back to cooking, I might feel perfectly comfortable making a piece of toast, but if I'm making, say, a chocolate eclair, I might want to get a little help. Same thing with treatment. There is help. So Holmes says, in your treatment, just state there are no obstacles to the pathway of truth. State that no past mistake, no past belief can interfere or obstruct the flow of divine intelligence through the idea. He said, because in treatment, what you have is a perfect person manifesting the attributes of perfect God in freedom, happiness, activity, and power, and that this truth, which is an eternal truth, is now made manifest in the person's life. So he says, just know it. It's obvious. And how could anyone argue with that? If you realize that your treatment is just knowing the divine perfection, that's a good help. But it's okay to ask other people to help you too. I do it. So don't hesitate. ask someone else to do a prayer treatment for you. The reason why it works so well is because the person doing the treatment for you is unaffected by your doubts. And because of that, it might be easier, or it should be easier for them to know for you that your desired good is possible and unfolding now. So at our center, we have a prayer team of people who have studied our teaching for several years and taken classes and even become a licensed spiritual mind practitioners, and they will treat for you with compassionate belief. All you have to do is send us an email with your request, and you also can go to the World Ministry of Prayer, and that's online at csl.org, and that is kind of like our headquarters or for all of the spiritual centers for spiritual living. We share that website, and we have a World Ministry of Prayer, and you can find recorded prayer treatments, and you can also request a personal phone call or an email prayer from a practitioner. See, we can all use the tool of spiritual mind treatment, whether we do it for ourselves, whether we do it for each other, whether we get a licensed practitioner or minister to do it for us, whether we just ask our friend or relative to say a prayer for us. And there are other spiritual practices that we can use also to create a life that is more and more self-actualizing, more and more in harmony with our good. We can use meditation, affirmations, reading, reflecting on what's going on, and we can just take a pause, just stop for a moment and breathe. Know the truth that there is good for you. Take a breath. Know that you are surrounded by the grace of Spirit itself. And that's how we use this thing called life, this thing called God, Spirit itself. So I really want to thank you for joining me today in exploring this philosophy, the science of mind. I really enjoy sharing these ideas because they've helped me a lot. I know they can help others too. And if you would like more information, or if you would like prayer treatment, you can connect with us at cslcarlsbad.org. That's open 24 hours a day while we look forward to hearing from you. So that's all for today. Many blessings to you. Enjoy. Enjoy. All is well.